The Suzuki DR650 is one of the most versatile motorcycles that I have ever owned. It weighs over 100 pounds less than my last Gen 3 KLR 650 build, tipping the scales at 369 pounds, yet it makes about the same power and torque, 35.1 horsepower at 6,200 RPM, and 32.2 pound-feet of torque at 4,500 RPM, according to DirtRider.com's dyno. So not only is it a lot easier to handle off-road, it's also a lot more fun to ride when you're on your way to the trails, and while it may not be dressed like an adventure bike from the factory, even geared down with a smaller 14-tooth sprocket on the front, it's still surprisingly capable of doing highway speeds. The stock suspension is notoriously soft and seemingly designed much more for comfort than it is off-road performance, but if you can look past that or maybe even enjoy it, it's one of the best handling motorcycles that I've ever ridden. That is until I picked up the 2025 Suzuki DRZ4S. Initially, this new redesigned version of the old DRZ400 got a pretty negative response from potential buyers, especially those who'd owned its predecessor. The number one complaint that I've heard is that they didn't add a 6th gear for those of us who need to spend a substantial amount of time out on the high-speed roads in order to get to our trails, but its increased wet weight and MSRP coupled with its seemingly unchanged performance don't really look great on paper either. Suzuki claims that at the crank, the redesigned engine puts out 38 horsepower at a rather high 8,000 RPM and only 27.3 pound-feet of torque at 6,500 RPM. And while we don't yet have any dyno numbers on the DRZ4S to compare to the DR650 data, it doesn't take much seat time to understand why Suzuki is asking nearly $2,000 more for this machine. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm completely aware that while these are both Suzuki dual sport motorcycles, they were designed not only at a very different time, but arguably for very different purposes, but that's exactly why I make videos like this. Buying the right motorcycle for your specific needs and riding style is incredibly important, and just looking at specs on paper can only paint a very small portion of the picture. So in order to help you guys better understand the differences, I put together a bunch of clips from the 5-hour comparison ride that my dad and I did on these bikes a few weeks ago. Then if any of you guys are interested in seeing a longer version of this, I can put the full hour-length video up in the upper right. But in this video, we'll just stick to how these bikes performed both on and off-road, and then at the very end, I'll let you guys know which bike I would personally pick for this type of adventure. For now though, let's kick things off with our initial impressions when we swap bikes for the first time about 40 miles into the trip. So I've been on the DRZ4S all day, Jerry's been on the DR650, and now I think we've got a few miles of pavement, some 55-mile-an-hour roads. Now is probably a good time to let you try out the 4S and see what you think of that. What were your thoughts on the DR650 on the way today?
Comfortable to ride. It's, the windshield helps a lot. It's a little bit cooler out today, but with the little bit of wind protection it has and the windshield, it's real good bike to ride on the highway. So
this one's going to have no wind protection, so we'll see what you think of that. And we've got 398 cc's versus 640 something. We've got a carburetor on here where that one's fuel injected. Suspension's definitely going to be a bit different. Seat is one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to sitting on this one rather than that tiny skinny one, because I mean, you look at what that width is like in comparison. It's not necessarily built for comfort, and I was getting a little sore towards the end.
Yeah, this is not going to be real comfortable. Seat's the same height though, huh?
This one's 34.8 or something, and that one's 36.4, I think, or something like that. So it's a bit higher.
Yeah, not too bad though. Is that one lower? No.
Lower? No, but it does definitely feel lower. It also sags a lot more. There's a lot more. Look at this.
Holy cow. That's crazy.
Yeah, that does not happen with that one. Oh boy, these bars feel high. Yeah, this is so much more comfortable to ride, isn't it? Just the whole ergonomics of it. Well, let's put the shields down.
This has got more pickup than that's got though, huh?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I think it's just because this thing revs up so slow with the carburetor versus the fuel injection.
Wow, I didn't expect that.
No, I didn't either when I first got on it, but it is a very peppy bike. This thing vibrates a lot at 60. I wonder if it's the tires. This thing, I can't believe how much this vibrates in comparison. That feels relatively smooth at 60, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is smooth.
No, it's the engine, because I pull the clutch in and it stops. Wow, yeah, I can't believe how much different of a ride it is. I'm much more comfortable from a seating and ergonomic standpoint, but as far as the vibrations, I can't believe how much this thing buzzes. The handlebars, the foot pegs. I always thought this was kind of a smooth bike. I mean, for a single cylinder, but now that that definitely puts things into perspective, or a different perspective anyway.
5 gears though, what's up with that?
Yeah. It's not bad at 60 though.
Well, it's not.
You getting uncomfortable yet?
Not really.
People complained a lot about that, I mean myself included, that they didn't change the motor a whole lot, but whatever they did, whether it's totally different from the old version or not, it is a very nice and smooth bike.
Even at 65, or maybe I was at 62, you punch it, it still takes off.
I know, that's what I said it, it's almost like an electric motor at any reasonable gear for the speed. It just always is ready.
Yeah, this thing is really nice.
Oh wow. And that feels much more nimble too.
This one does.
I think so, yeah.
Oh yeah, it does.
Wow. Yeah, I mean this, not that that's necessarily a good thing for high-speed travel. I mean you want a nice solid feeling bike, which this thing is, but boy, yeah, I can't believe, I mean this thing still feels light, but it's definitely a lot more work to get it to flick around. Other than the seat and the handlebars being a little more comfortable on here, that definitely is a much more enjoyable bike to ride.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, as much as I enjoyed the ergonomics of the DR, I've got to say it does feel almost a little bit archaic as far as the throttle response goes in comparison to the 4S.
Yeah, on the highway you could really tell, man. It's snappy and yeah, it pulls harder, it feels like.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a tuning thing that this bike just is really not optimized from the factory, where that one definitely seems like it is.
Yeah, it's quite the machine.
Yeah. This should be exciting. This will be the first ATV trail that I've had it on. We'll have you hop on the DR650 to start. We'll put some miles on one of my favorite counties and see what I think of my newest bike here. So I'm going to hold our ABS button down. We'll turn the rear ABS off. You don't have to do anything because you don't have any electronic driver aids at all.
That's the way I like it.
The ABS on here, I'm going to hit the brakes and slow down here. The front doesn't really... front doesn't really seem to get in your way too much, although now that I just did that, I'm going to hit them again. Yeah, I don't know. They're a little bit more overbearing than I thought they were, than I remember anyways. Maybe I'm just going a little harder on the brakes, but with just one press, the rear turns off. If I were to hold it down again, then both of them would turn off and I would have no ABS at all. Boy, this thing sure shifts so much smoother than that bike does. And the clutch pulls in like it's a hydraulic clutch, where that one really, everything about it's kind of, you know, clunky. Still an awesome bike though, and I don't want you guys to think that anything that I'm saying today is because I don't like that bike or that I'm saying it's a bad bike. I'm out here to compare them, and that means that I have to be honest. Well, I guess I don't have to be honest, but it'd be kind of pointless to come out here and be anything but honest. So that's what I'm noticing.
There, I got the front end up, I think.
Yeah, this doesn't seem to have too much of a problem in that department.
No, you look like you popped it up pretty easy.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel wound out. I mean, I'm at like a 8th or a 16th throttle half of the time. And that's the thing, is even to get it to come up in the air, I mean, it's not like you don't even need half throttle for that. Yeah, I'm just running around in second gear and it feels plenty happy.
Really?
Yeah, power's just always right there. This is probably one of the nicest trail bikes I've ridden, which, I mean, as much as people complain about the gear ratio being closer and not like you need 5th gear off-road, usually, I do see why they kept the gears a little bit closer, because it is nice to be able to exactly pick where you want to be as far as RPM and for torque and horsepower and that sort of thing, because it feels just absolutely dialed in second. This is perfect. When you need to pop the front end up, I mean, there's just a really nice amount of kind of pushback from the suspension. It doesn't have to sink way down before you actually get any upward movement in the front tire like the DR, which of course would be fixed with some better suspension. That, you know, it's no surprise. But yeah, this thing is just
that time I got the front end up.
Nice.
That was fun.
Yeah, this is just a very nice, clean feeling bike, and that's like the very first thing that I said about it. Just such a nice bike to ride. The suspension just feels so nice on this. I mean, it's certainly firm, and I wouldn't say it's a extremely comfortable ride, but I mean, that's not what you're looking for when you're doing this, really. That, I assume, feels pretty plush, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
As much as you probably could, and I'm sure people will continue to use that one as an adventure bike and we'll start to mod these, probably me actually, will start to mod this into a light adventure bike. They could definitely both do an excellent job, but that one I think is certainly one that will be, I guess I shouldn't say that. I was going to say a little bit more comfortable, but maybe with the buzziness, it might be the opposite.
Yeah, it could be.
So far, this thing definitely seems like it would be the smoother option, which is just kind of strange. I definitely did not feel like my first DRZ400 was very smooth or comfortable at 60. It was doable. It's not like it was impossible. It just wasn't something I really enjoyed or liked.
Is it because it's got a smaller jug going up and down, or they just got it, like you said, finer tuned?
I think it's tuning and maybe just kind of precision, but the bigger the piston is, the more difficult it's going to be, I think, to make it smooth, because you're just throwing a lot more weight around.
Sure.
And I don't know what the stroke is on the two. There's not a whole lot of travel. I think it's a little bit easier to balance.
Oh,
would be my guess.
Yeah.
Either way, this thing definitely feels like it is absolutely meant to be out here. And really, I mean, that's kind of surprising, since it kind of seems like it's meant to be doing 60 miles an hour almost. I don't know that I'm too excited to try to do anything more than that, but I've heard people say that even at 70 it's pretty smooth.
Oh.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see, but for right now it's definitely smoother everywhere that I've been in comparison to that bike.
Sand!
Oh,
That's the sand!
oh yeah, look at that.
Feet come down.
Ooh, and this thing is pretty solid in that sand. That's nice.
Was it? Really?
Yeah. I've always said that that bike is just so light feeling, but this one, it definitely, I think it feels lighter. But it feels so solid, and I think it's got to be either the frame or the upside down forks or both. It just, something just feels much more solid and stiff than the DR really, or the XR, and I think it's almost got to be the upside down forks.
And this one does not have them.
No, yeah, that's got just regular standard. Well, I call it standard. It used to be standard. It's not really anymore. Inverted seems like what everybody's going to, and well, now I can see why. Definitely find myself wanting to be close to the bike and not stand up too high. Woo! It is actually kind of nice to sit on the seat off-road. I'm surprised. I mean, I got to get my butt off a little bit now and then for certain things, but for the most part, it's good.
Oh, does standing up help on that one, or no?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I kind of don't like it. It's almost you're almost too high. I mean, on those bikes, I kind of like to stretch out, and it does feel good on this one too, but you definitely, I think because of the high pegs, I like being a little bit lower down. Well, I've got to say, that was an absolute blast. That bike is just so perfect for, I mean, really everything that we've done today, but boy, was that a lot of fun on the trails. I think just removing these little inserts, I think, is going to make it feel a lot more, well, make me feel a lot more connected to the bike, I think.
Oh, yeah, those are always bad.
Yeah. I don't know if I want them down and back a little bit. I mean, then you're messing with your levers and stuff. I would rather not move the bars up at all. But I think I would just like a little bit more space between the pegs and the bars. But maybe I just need to put some more miles on it and just kind of get used to it. And I suppose the first thing I'll do before I switch any parts out is maybe just loosen up the clamps and roll these forward a little bit, just to give me a little bit more space, because I think that would just be kind of to my preference, not necessarily needed, but just sort of what I like. The other thing that I've noticed is this bike really seems like it slides around a lot easier. It's easier to fishtail on this one than it is on that bike, and I think that's partially, again, because this just isn't tuned right where this is, but it's also the suspension too. It just doesn't sink so much, so you just have the ability to light that tire up and just do, whatever sort of course correction you need to get it to go where you want it to, and that's just so nice. Are you ready for a switch?
Yeah. You want to go first?
It doesn't really matter. What do you want to do?
I'll go first.
The thing about the DR650, at least the stock one, is that the pegs actually do move, but I don't really seem like it doesn't really seem like it bothers me.
Oh gosh, I never even noticed.
Yeah, it drove me nuts on the Gen 3 KLR, but they just really don't sink down that much, and they grab your boots enough that it just doesn't matter. But of course, we do have bar risers that are rocks offset risers, so they are set a little bit further forward, so that kind of helps with that cockpit space. And these bars are rolled a bit forward, and they're aftermarket bars. The KTM bend.
Maybe are you moving? Oh,
yep.
Maybe I should have let you go first. It's gonna take me a little while. After getting off of the DR, this one kind of feels like you don't have any suspension. It's just a steel frame.
Yeah, it is a bit stiff, which, I mean, certainly isn't good for comfort, but if you're looking to ride fast and hard, comfort's not what you want.
Does this one have adjustable shocks on it?
It does. It has the most adjustable suspension that I've ever had.
Oh, no kidding.
It doesn't have a preload adjustment on the front, but I would assume you could probably adjust that with just the spacers on the springs, so it's a little bit more work. It's not just a dial, but that's the same as this. It doesn't. This one doesn't have any preload adjustment on the front. The front has compression and rebound damping, where this one I think does not. There's no compression or rebound in the front. They both have preload adjustment for the spring on the rear and then rebound damping on the rear, but that one has a high and low speed compression damping on the rear, where this one just I think has a rebound and that's it.
This is seems like it's got the quickest response of any bike I've ever been on as far as hitting the throttle.
Yeah, it really just, the power is just always right there. It's so
yeah,
nice.
it really is.
And it doesn't feel, I mean, insufficient. I mean, and I suppose it is pretty close to the same horsepower as this one. Less torque. But yeah, I mean, it sure seems like it pulls the front end up easier. But this one, I think maybe once it has its second to actually get some wind under its wings and the slide comes up in the carburetor, it seems like then it definitely picks up and feels a little bit more like a more powerful bike.
This is like the 701 in ways up to a certain point.
It is, yeah, it definitely is.
Because, yeah, she moves.
Yeah, I think maybe riding that bike has made me sort of shy. Because once you really punch this one, then all of a sudden it's got 650 power. Boy, this thing vibrates.
Does it? Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, especially if you want any power out of it, it really gets to move in the pegs.
I guess my legs are kind of in a weird position, it feels like.
Yeah.
I don't gotta think about it for a while. But I like the handlebars.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I think the pegs, I maybe would just like if the pegs are a little bit lower.
And they will be if you take those rubber inserts out.
They would be, yes, that is true.
Half an inch, but
yeah,
that's something.
Wait a minute. We want to go this way, sorry.
Yeah, it really, you're really sitting on top of it though. It's like you have no feeling whatsoever of being inside of it, you know?
No, and I really didn't realize that this bike was a bike that you did sit in, but it definitely feels like a bike you sit in, where that one, you're right, you're definitely on it like you're on a dirt bike. And I think anybody that grew up riding a dirt bike or is really good on a dirt bike would much prefer that one, but I do really kind of like sitting down in this one. It is kind of nice, especially when you scoot forward.
Oh yeah.
The way that I think you and I ride, this just, I don't know, feels more at home, I suppose.
I think so.
This bike definitely feels a little bit more like an ATV with the nice wide comfy seat and the sort of easier, more plush ride. That definitely feels a lot more, I suppose, like a sport quad, where this feels a lot more like a utility quad. But that could easily change with some suspension and some carb work. So now, I'm sure a lot of you are upset that the DR650 is just in its stock form yet and hasn't been upgraded as far as the performance or really even the suspension goes, and you're probably screaming at me through your keyboard that if I would just do a few easy, quick mods to that bike, it would be so much better and be a lot more like the 4S, and that may be true, but of course, there's really no sense in making all those modifications without testing both bikes in more or less their stock form first, and I think in their specific configurations as they sit right now, there is definitely a good reason to go with one bike over the other, depending again on what your riding style is and what type of terrain and roads you have between you and your trails. The DR650 is certainly more comfortable, even just out of the box. I think the 4S seat is just way too hard for the amount of riding that we did that day. I found myself standing up as much as I could towards the end, and it really did just kind of wear me out. The off-road side of things, I think definitely could be done by either bike. Obviously, we weren't doing anything that intense, but the 4S suspension certainly did seem to shine, and if we really wanted to ride fast, that bike definitely would have been my pick. If you're just somebody that wants to poke around in the woods a bit, or maybe even ride a little bit faster once in a while, honestly, the soft plush suspension on the DR650 is entirely usable and can be kind of comfortable if you're somebody that's going to be putting on a lot of miles. Whether you're on or off the road, though, in its stock configuration, the 4S is just so much more fun of a bike to ride. It's just so much peppier, feels so much smoother, even at those higher RPMs, and honestly, at 60 miles an hour, it's almost where it feels its smoothest. So that's why I'm really excited to get a much more comfy seat on this bike to see how it does out on those longer rides with that upgraded. As far as gas mileage and range, both of these bikes are, well, relatively the same as far as that capability goes. You could, of course, stick almost, well, I think more than a 6-gallon tank on the DR650, where the 4S, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any options yet. And honestly, even when they do come out, I doubt they'll be able to fit even more than a half-gallon, just the way that the bike is designed. But because the DR650 gets around 50 miles to the gallon, where the 4S gets over 60, they ended up being about the same as far as range. I think I can get about 140 miles out of either of them before I start to get a little bit nervous and really want to fill up. But just because of the added comfort from the Seat Concept seat and just the sort of ergonomics in general of the DR650, I think that probably would have been the best bike for the job that day. And from the bit of time that I've spent on my buddy Jason's heavily modified DR650, I know we can get a lot more performance out of the DR650, and with some suspension upgrades, it'll probably feel a lot more like the 4S. But of course, the 4S can definitely have some modifications done to it to improve its performance. The suspension side of things, I don't really think needs to be upgraded. Maybe some people will disagree, but to be honest, I think right out of the box, the DRZ4S is a really pretty tough bike to beat. I think with just an upgraded seat, it should be, well, a lot better than the DR650. Of course, there is quite the price difference like we talked about to begin with. So I would say take all that into consideration, decide what exactly you need these bikes to do, think about how much money you need to stick into either of them to get it to be to a point where it's going to make you happy. But then, of course, always make sure you get a test ride on either of them. You can look at specs on paper all day, and you don't really understand how these bikes feel and how they're going to work for you until you get out and throw a leg over them. No matter what type of bike you've got, though, make sure you get out and enjoy this beautiful world God created any chance you get. If you can't do that right now, here's more videos to check out. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, stay swanky, and we'll catch you on the next one.